Anyway, oh, we're live. Yay. Let's do it. Welcome, everyone, to Coaching and Flourish. We're going to do a Q&A session with Raj. I'd love to hear about how you liked last week's. I led everyone through a visualization exercise that I do on a regular basis. Love to hear about that. Yeah, but today we're going to do a Q&A. Get back to our roots. And I'm not going to share too much about the exciting things that are happening in the organization, but there are many of them, and we're going to be rolling them out in about a month from now. So fun stuff.
Exciting.
So welcome, Raj. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I get excited this time of the year. I know there's like new things brewing and happening, and I'm really excited to hear all the great things that are going to be happening with Coach Training EDU. And I love John's visualization. So if anyone didn't get to hear that last week, I'm going to go back and revisit it and listen, and just allow yourself to be. So I would recommend that to anyone. And I've got a great question for you, John.
Yay, let's do it.
So let's start with this. So the question is around life coach qualification.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need in terms of qualification to be a life coach?
Well, technically, you don't need anything, and it is a problem that the field faces. It's a problem that I think will be resolved in that there will be a state, there will be some nation, some official body is going to start to regulate the term. There was some legislation in Oregon here about 4 years ago now. Didn't make it out of the first chamber, but it was interesting to see it and how, like, even just to see the bill go through a little bit. The But it will happen. Other than that, there are a number of bodies, the ICF, Health Board, there are a couple in the UK as well, that certify organizations and individuals in a specific kind of life coaching, which I think will be the standard of what life coaching will be 5, 10 years from now. There are a lot of questions about it. There are a lot of people making videos, making fun of life coaches about it, which makes my heart sad. And a lot of misconception of what the field is. And I think what will happen, because I've experienced it, I've experienced other people being trained as coaches in professional coaches, professional coach training that is accredited by these third party bodies. That works. It is a field. It's not just people. I mean, people who are untrained, I don't know what kind of product they're actually delivering or what kind of value they're creating. I imagine they're more advising, giving a lot of advice, just doing what you would imagine a life coach would do. But instead, what we as coaches do, we deliver empowerment. So rather than knowledge, and that's a whole different paradigm. What I think will happen, I think best practice is to get certified through the ICF, and then another coaching organization if you want to. That is best practice, and it will ensure that you have a very strong skill set and can deliver value, consistent value. And so those are my thoughts on it. I feel like I've looked at this a lot of different ways. I'm hoping a state will do it, because then that opens it up. The latest development is the health board is working with insurance companies right now, where a coach who is a health board coach working with a physician can charge insurance for coaching sessions. So that's a game changer. And a lot of HR, that's a game changer in the wellness health side. In the executive side, companies now are companies who are hiring coaches, like Raj, like you, understand the value of the ICF or some accreditation. So there is becoming, I think, in the field, even if without state intervention, there is an awareness of people who know the field, know what to look for in terms of accreditation. That's relatively new. I'd say in the past 5 years, I've noticed a huge, a huge increase in awareness in the last year or two. Curious from your standpoint too. I mean, you're in it. You're deep in the executive world, in the executive coaching space. What have you seen about awareness of credentialing in terms of and getting the contracts with these organizations?
Yeah. I think for me, it's been critical. I get asked for it. I think organizations are really aware of it. business schools that I've done work with as well, corporations that I contract with, they've actually all asked me for ICF accreditation. And to me, the training, the certification, going on to accreditation, I think is really important. It's critical. I was coaching for a very long time and had done all different kinds of programs before I came to Coach Training EDU, and they were great, and a lot of that contributed to where I'm at. And I don't say this lightly, and I'm not just saying it because John's honest to God truth. It wasn't until I did the training and certification with Coach Training EDU. I mean, it elevated my coaching to another level. And I like to have that certification and then the accreditation because it gives you that credibility out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another thought that I had, I often hear a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm interested in being a coach." You know, people tell me I'm a great listener, or they always come to me with their problems. And it's great. It is great to have those skills already. Yet it's a bit like I'm also a qualified interpreter. I'm not practicing anymore. But just because you speak a language does not make you a great interpreter if you don't have a framework. And I feel it's a bit like you can be a great listener and maybe you're great asking questions. But once you put a framework around it or you go into a program, it takes it to a different level.
Yeah, I really, I think back and to think, what, like, well, who would I be as a coach if I didn't get trained? And then I shudder at the thought. It's not good. Yeah.
What's Coach Training EDU's mission? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, John, around kind of getting coaching out there in the world.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot about wanting to, get this, this kind of work into the academic space. And the driver of coaching is the executive space. And the executive space looks to the wellness space. So I feel like there are all these fields, all these spaces are looking to see what is happening. It's a lot like math, like, the very edges of math. Let's say that there are maybe a dozen problems that mathematicians are like currently like working for, and when there's a breakthrough in one of them, they'll read about it and they'll scurry and look at all of the other like the implications in all the other places. I feel like the coaching field is a little bit like that in the sense of, okay, so what's happening in in terms of leadership development or strengths-based development? What does that, what's happening there? And then you look at the wellness fields, and oh wow, like there's so much like knowledge around. Okay, these are sleep, successful sleep habits. These are habits around exercise. These are habits around communication. These are habits around even like exercise, work-life balance, work-life integration. So much knowledge is being produced that I feel like is just percolating through the fields. For me, the mission of Coach Training EDU is really bring that to those fields, and especially the academic field. And that's for me. But it's exciting. I feel like it's already happening. It's just our mission is to speed it up. And I want to understand. If I think at the beginning when I started this, it always felt like, oh, get it started. Like we need to like start this. It's like, no, it's now happening. And so now it's more around the speed of it, which feels nice. It's not an if, it's more of a when.
Thanks, John. Well, you just mentioned a few niches there. You talked about academic and wellness and executive coaching. Now we have a question here. What are some of the most creative coaching niches that you've heard of?
I have a couple favorites. One was someone who worked with high school students who are deaf and the specific challenges that the deaf community faces. Another one was someone he was an executive. He's someone who wanted to work with executives who had high-powered positions but have had some sort of heart event, some health event that has shaken them. Another one is someone she was wanting to work with women in their first year in marriage, women who are in their first, women who are pregnant, working towards that. One I heard recently was someone who was a coach specifically for people who did not have children. That was an interesting specialty. I mean, it's. I think a lot of times people take what's happening in there, or what's in their life, which I did with education. I was like, for me, I literally taught a dead language to teenagers, found coaching, and thought this makes sense. And I was working with teens, so you put the two together. I think when people are looking for their specialty, it's asking yourself, what's unique to my experience that I could bring? And I was looking at someone recently. I was reading something about one of the keys to branding is figuring out what is your unfair advantage. What's the thing that you bring that no one else can bring simply because of your experience? And that can sometimes be not a key part, but at least a part of what you bring to your specialty as a coach. I think that's a really powerful way of looking at it. So everyone has some sort of unfair advantage. You gotta use it.
Yeah, really great examples there, John. Got me thinking. Actually, when I first started out, the name of my program and coaching I was doing was Savvy Strategies for Enlightened Entrepreneurs.
There you go.
And what I was focusing on was, we called it conscious prosperity. But what I was bringing to that was, I am highly spiritual, yet I am also, I can play in that yin and yang place, can be very strategic and corporate. So it was bringing that learning, running programs and group coaching around helping those entrepreneurs in terms of their money mindset and their thoughts around abundance and any fears that they had, that if you are doing spiritual coaching, it might mean that you shouldn't charge. That was an ongoing common theme.
I have more too. So other examples?
Yeah.
They're so good. It just flew out of my mind. I'll think of another one. But while you were talking, I was like, oh, I have a good one. Oh no, it's just slipping, Raj. It was so good too. I was like, I'll think of it in a minute. I'll share it.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
I got it. I got it back. It just came back.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. It was people. It was someone who wanted to work with executives who like to use bad words.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant. That's so brilliant. That's so smart. I mean, it's not mine. I mean, I as a high school teacher have avoided, bad language, but I mean, some people really like it. And it was, so in our program, it's like, this is what I want to coach. And my goodness, talk about a specialty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause there's some pirate mouths in the executive world.
There is. I can vouch for that.
Yeah. You meet them like, what? Wow. Okay. All right. Got to give this, my Latin teacher self is breathe. Okay. We can do this.
I thought of you the other day, John. I can't remember who I was talking to. And I was like, some of this language comes up in the coaching sessions or even the groups and things. And I know we talked about Tony Robbins once, and you were like, oh, we sat down to watch it. And Tony Robbins is the potty mouth. So, sometimes when I'm running these sessions, but I'm a Brit, we have some colorful language also. So sometimes in that world, and I think that's something for coaches to think about, isn't it? Like, I can match it. I'm comfortable with that. I would not submit a recording to the ICF, of course, with that kind of coaching.
I wonder they have to have guidelines at the ICF. It's like, okay, this is one of those where it's like, oh wow. Okay.
That would be interesting.
Or they have assessors, like specific assessors, like, is this an E or not? Is this parental explicit content?
And I had another one that came to mind. I almost said afterlife coaching, end of life coaching, of course, unless you believe in something. I mean, afterlife coaching would not work, but end of life coaching. Somebody I work with, and that was fascinating. I was mentoring them.
I have an idea of this is no one has done this, but this is a theoretical one. It would be people, a life coach who specializes in coaching people when they're waking up. I think that'd be amazing. Like, especially if a coach lived in Europe or someplace, ahead of the US, or like, let's say they lived in, Middle East, and they want to coach someone, time zones behind them, or, something, yeah, live in South Africa, or some, live in Africa and, coach someone in US. I think it'd be great. Because you'd be like, oh, you're 5 hours or 8 hours ahead, whatever. That'd be fun.
What do you mean? Just as they're waking up? This is
Yeah, you call them. It's like your wake up call. How are you? Like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We're going to be their coach right away. What's up?
You're clearly a morning person then, John.
Well, I think it's fascinating. Like, it seems silly, but I think what's going to happen in the field, and part of it is silly. Like, it's an idea for a life coaching sketch that we put together. It's silliness. However, there is an element of I think, fast forward 10, 20 years from now, there's going to be instances where coaching, like in real time, coaching on demand in real time, like there's going to be a place for it where, so I didn't want to sit down and do this 2 hours of work, but it's hard. I'm having a hard time, like getting my mind in there. Call a coach, call your coach, or, something where, this idea of, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to muscle through it, be a lone ranger. Like it's somehow not a test of your worth as a human being. Asking for help is a sign of strength. And so many people in the coaching world, I mean, myself included, feel like, no, just lift it myself. I can do it. Like, look at me, like how strong I am, like blah, blah. Asking for help. I mean, I think there is definitely a skill to asking for help. Like I feel like asking for help it's not like I'm just going to ask everyone for everything. I feel like there's a very strategic asks, and you got to do your work before they ask. Do your work during the ask and do it after, like follow up after. I mean, I feel like there's a way that we can engage with coaches in these different areas of our lives that can move us forward.
Actually, I've decided I absolutely love that idea. As you've been talking and I've been thinking about it, I'm like, well, I set intentions in the morning. I don't go on my phone. I practice gratitude. I set intentions. I think about 3 goals of the day. There are days when I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel motivated. And I could do with that, actually.
I know. What if you had a coaching session, like, let's say a coaching session at 6 in the morning? Wake up, do your morning routine, knowing that you're going to be meeting with your coach in 30 minutes. Like, it's a structure. All of this stuff, like coaches, like use coaches and coaching as structures for you to live your best life. And it's all designed. You can design this way ahead of time and say, this is what I want. But yeah, I'm just waiting for a coach to do that. Say, you know what? I specialize in coaching people in the morning. Amazing.
And that would be great in the exec world. I actually have a lot of exec clients similar to this, that they do have their coaching at 6:30 in the morning, 7 in the morning before, and it just sets the tone for the day, doesn't it?
Sets it up. Yeah, and it's amazing. I feel like, there are periods of time when I have a coach and don't have a coach, and when in those periods of transition, I'm an odd client to have as a coach. Like it's, or as it's a weird world. It's a weird world. And it's also, when in those places, like I realize what it does, it just speeds up your processing speed. It allows me and other people to process your life more quickly so that you can make faster, more empowered decisions. And then so much of our life now, like so much of the work of our life is making decisions, decision-making work. It's no longer, just muscle work. It's more like deciding what to do is as important as getting it done. So yeah, this is where I think coaching is really the newest field that helps us as human beings flourish in a world that gets increasing, like with increasing decisions, with increasing options.
So since we're talking about designing your life, I'm going to jump over to this question. What would you say are some of the first steps in manifesting the life that you want?
That's funny. So apparently, manifesting and manifestation, which 20, 30 years ago was considered the height of woo woo, is now super popular among teenagers. I didn't know that. They're like all into it. It's fascinating. Like it's becoming a thing. The the idea that so just to get the idea out there, this idea of like law of attraction, like you have a vibration, and then there's a field that vibrates, and then it attracts like whatever it is that you're thinking of, kind of thing. You know, 100, 200, 300 years from now, it might not be that far off. There are some ideas in the quantum physics where you're looking at, okay, there has to be a field that's something that this is like energy is moving in, and maybe gravity is based on whether there's a block moving through the field or whether there is like a needle moving through the field. The amount of resistance might be equal to the amount of gravity. There's not, so I mean, there's all this like I think it's somewhat misguided of our present scientific community and just people in general. It's like, oh, this is it. Like, there's no other force like electricity to be discovered. There's going to be something cool that's going to be discovered. So all of that set aside, right? Like all of the mechanics of this, does that actually work or not? What I use it and how I like go into this is I know that if I imagine what I want to have happen, if I put myself into that space in the future tense, and I put it in there now, what I'm doing is I'm priming my system to take the actions that are most likely to achieve that. So for me, it's more around the perspective of what's my most empowered perspective, and like imagining getting there, putting myself in that space. That's how I do it. I'll usually use my mic, or I'll make recordings. I'll put music in the background. I'll listen to it while I ride my bike, in the car. I'm not in the car that much these days, but you know what I mean. It's it becomes for me, it becomes a reminder to put myself in that most empowered perspective. And some of them, I listen to them so often, it's like lyrics of a song. I will say the same words at the same time, just unconsciously, and then that's when I know it's in. Like I don't, some of them I listen to like 15, 20 years old now. Like I have some old ones.
Wow.
Old. They're amazing. They're amazing. I remember, I mean, because it brings back so many memories of where you are when you're listening to them, making of it. I mean, I use them a lot when I work out. I really do. How about you, Raj? I know this is a bit, I mean, this is I know this is one of your central topics.
Yeah,
Love to hear your thoughts on this.
it's so powerful. I think as you were talking, the word that was coming up for me, um, first, it's belief as well, isn't it? It's the belief that this can happen. And a lot of people, they want to manifest, but there is doubt, or there is that room in their mind where, is this really possible? And and I think what happens is people get fixated on the how versus the dreaming, and I have dreamt and put things on my vision board that if I think about my younger self, and like you're saying, listening to those recordings at that time, I never shared with other people would have been like, there is no way. And it's here now. I'm living it right now. Just talking to you is what was on that vision board right now. It is happening and it's here. And that, just claiming it in that way, for me, like you, John, it's an active practice. It is, there's regular times of the year when I'm going to go all out. This is my time now. I've been decluttering things. This is the time where I like to just revisit intentions, celebrate, do a vision recording or a vision board. But I like to visit it periodically throughout the year as well, and celebrate.
Yeah, it's for me, it's about a reminder of claiming an empowered perspective and finding unique ways to remind yourself of that perspective throughout the day, and really just bringing it in and deeper and deeper. I let my kids listen to them, like in the cars. That's fun. They have their favorites. Like, Dad, this is the sad one. I'm like, no, it's just meditative music. I just use a slower soundtrack, and they don't like that one.
Oh,
It's like, that's the sad one. I'm like, no, it's not sad. It's good. I often wonder what's going to happen, when they turn. I'm curious to see, what their feedback will be, being growing up in a life coaching household.
mm.
Be fascinated. So far, so good, but
It is fascinating. I mean, you talk about that empowered perspective, and you said something earlier about it's like owning it, isn't it? You're helping them to claim that and step into it. One of the most important things I learned years and years ago was actually on a leadership training program, executive leadership training program was doing, was the adding I am to something.
mm,
I am this, not leaving a gap or an error or any kind of space, like bringing it into the here and now, um, and sitting in that energy.
I mean, a lot of coaching is like that too, where even if something has yet to come to pass, then the idea from what you can do in a coaching session is explore the feeling of, okay, like, what would it be like to bring it here and now? There was an interview I was watching with Robert Downey Jr. where he talked about a lot of the work that he does as an actor is he has to figure out what the film project is going to need, like what kind of inner world, and to put himself into that inner world and prepare for it, do that work. Sometimes he says it can take months. So he says a lot of it's like guessing. You have to guess where you need to be. It's all guesswork. But the thing that struck me about it was the forward the the forward imagination of what this might be in the future and bringing it to the present moment. I mean, and there's a lot of studies that say human beings are terrible at this. Like, we're very bad at knowing what we're going to like or not like. But the thing that struck me about it was not the end result of what he was doing so much, but the practice itself is the point. And the practice itself you will make different decisions during the day if you do this practice versus not. Those different decisions then make all the difference. Make a 1 degree difference, 2 degree. I mean, now you're operating in, an exponential type of situation. Yeah, Raj, these are fun.
And we're on time, and I could talk about this all day.
I know.
Thanks, John.
I have some old ones. They're fun. Maybe I'll break them out. Maybe I'll put them. I mean, they're fun. Oh, another thing I used to do too is I would take apart magazines and write, like, what I would like to see, like as if a reporter were writing a story about
Yeah.
us. Like, I'll do that. There's all sorts of stuff. You just be creative, have fun. Thank you, everyone. Hope this has been another fun Q&A for the Coach and Flourish podcast. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the CTEDU community and the larger coaching community in general. See you in a week.
See you.
Have fun.
Bye.